Hi, this is my Spokane, the leader and the founder of Church Governance Solutions. I'm dealing with pastoral traits that are capable to revitalize churches. Pastoral traits that are capable to revitalize churches. And today we're dealing with part 2. And I want to urge you to sit back, fasten your seatbelt, and listen to us once more. And you will learn out of this. Now, those pastoral traits, and today I want to start with courageous. Being courageous, because that's a trait, that's a mark of a pastor that will revitalize a church, and pastors needs to be courageous. And I'm sure some of you who are pastors who are listening to us right now, you will agree with me that sometimes you need just to be courageous in situations, because sometimes it gets so difficult to become a pastor, to lead people, to an extent that sometimes you feel like quitting. You feel like giving up. You feel like just throwing the towel in this thing and not continue. And it happens several times to pastors. And sometimes it's being courageous that keeps the pastors going. And I want to emphasize the importance of being courageous. And I'm sure you would remember when God was speaking to Joshua after the death of Moses. What God emphasized to Joshua was being courageous. And the reason is because it was going to be discouraging when Joshua, who have walked with Moses for quite a long time, have seen Moses doing things. Now, all of a sudden, that Moses is dead. And now Joshua has to take up the baton. And that's not easy, because you have actually been a subordinate. Now, all of a sudden, you must take charge. You might tell yourself, I've witnessed what Moses was doing. I know what Moses was doing. But when you're supposed to take over yourself, it's not easy. Because one, for the death of Moses, actually, it makes you to be sorrowful. It actually hurts you that your mentor, your leader, is now all of a sudden dead. Now, for the fact that you're still mourning the death of your leader, courageous now, it's not going to be easy for you to be courageous. And hence God emphasized that, Joshua, you need to be courageous in this regard. Now, pastors need to be courageous as well in running the ministry. In order to revitalize your church, to revitalize your ministry, you need to be courageous as a pastor. Now, pastors that are courageous, they overcome fear. You are able to overcome fear. And I must really emphasize the fact that fear becomes a tool that the devil uses to discourage you in the ministry at hand. And that is why most of the people, they actually give up along the way, because they are fearing what is the future about this church. They are fearing, will I succeed? They are fearing, will I break through? Will I revive this church? Will I revitalize this church? Because of that fear, then, fear discourages them. Most of them, they're actually discouraged in a sense that they cannot continue anymore. But we want to emphasize the fact that it is very important to remain courageous. Because then being courageous, therefore, it dispels or overcomes the fear. And courageously take decisions of progress. You are able to do that. When you are dispelling fear, you overcome fear, you are able to courageously make decisions, because decisions have to be made in any case. And if you don't make decisions, then you cannot progress. So this is very important then, that you become courageous and you continue being courageous, because that will actually be able to help you to make decisions. Now, you must learn to say no to fear. You must learn to say no to discouragement, because it's very important to be discouraged. And I must really say that discouragement is actually a default spirit that comes when somebody is engaged in serious work. And I'm sure you would know that. When somebody is engaged in what we call serious task and project at hand, discouragement then becomes the spirit that comes and discourage or bring us down so that we cannot continue. And that is why courage is very important. Now, also, you'll realize that you need to say no to tiredness as well, because it is easy to get tired of what you're doing. Because also when you're carrying the load of a big job at hand, you are busy with the project that you need to be driving. It becomes very important that you need to say no to tiredness, because being tired can actually make you lazy at the end of the day. Because you can sit back and say, I'm tired, but the tiredness of the body continues as long as you are alive. And most of you will tell me that you're forever feeling tired. And sometimes you continue feeling tired even when you're supposed to be revitalizing the church or running the church. And that is why you must always learn to say no to tiredness as well. The other thing that you have to say no to, if you want to be courageous, say no to adversities as well. Now, when we say adversities, we're meaning about challenges that are trying to push back, the challenges that are trying to make you to give up, the challenges that will make you to decide, otherwise I'm not going to continue. It's very important that you say no to that as well. But I must also say you must handle opposition carefully. And verbal attacks as well, because sometimes there are verbal attacks from the very same people that you trust. Verbal attacks from the very same leaders that you appointed. Verbal attacks sometimes from the very same members that you are leading. So you must be careful of that as a leader, as a pastor, if you want to revitalize your church. So be courageous at every single moment, because that's the only way you're going to be able to conquer. Because when verbal attack comes, they want to stop you. They want to discourage you. They want to make you give up. Verbal attacks, when they come, the adversaries that want to make you give up and say, I'm not continuing. But I want to emphasize the fact that even when there are verbal attacks, you must stand resolute. You must be firm and say, I'm not going to give up on this, and I'm not going to fall prey to what people are saying, but I'm going to be courageous and continue being courageous. That's very important. You must overcome spiritual attacks as well, because there are spiritual attacks sometimes that weighs heavily on you. And pastoral approach, you would know that as a pastor, there will always be spiritual attacks. There will always be spiritual problems that comes upon you, because the more you're serious with the work of God, there will always be spiritual attacks. So please be aware of that, because they want to incapacitate you. They want to discourage you. They want to cut off your wings so that you cannot fly. Now, as a pastor, please continue being resolute even when there are spiritual attacks, because spiritual attacks cannot be discounted. They will always be there. And I want to encourage you that it's a great trait for a pastor to become courageous despite of spiritual attacks. Rise up even when you don't feel like rising up. It is tough call, of course. It is not work for easily discouraged people. So pastoring itself is not a work for easily discouraged people. It is actually not on for people that are easily giving up, because it is difficult actually to continue with pastoral work when you are easily discouraged. Secondly, I want to say another trait for pastors that is able to revitalize the churches is being strategic as a pastor. Now, strategic approach as a pastor is actually helping you to be able to revitalize the church, because pastors that are strategic, they plan and they proceed strategically and skillfully as well to implement the plan that they planned. Now, it is very important that you put up plans in advance, because without a plan, you'll never be able to drive anything. Let me say this. It is very important that you become strategic as a pastor if you are to revitalize the church. But when you have strategized, you cannot put up a plan only and strategize without actually executing that plan. And that plan should be executed skillfully. You must actually get people that can execute the plan itself. If it's not you, but it's very important as well to allocate people that are more skillful in that regard of executing the plan. So very, very important as well that you be strategic, not only strategic, but be able to articulate those strategies and plans so that they can actually make progress to make the turnaround on this church. And I must really say that turnaround pastors are good and skillful planners. Those that are skillful, they are able to turn around the church, to revitalize the church. Even when the church is at the brink of breaking and at the brink actually of falling off, at the brink of actually being destroyed to ashes, whereby you cannot actually revitalize it. But I'm talking about you having turnaround pastors that are strategic in nature. They are able to skillfully put the plans and execute them to an extent that they are able actually to make sure that things happen and the church gets revitalized because of their strategies and ability to implement those strategies. Now, as a pastor, remember that you need to be strategic in nature. This must be your trait. This must be your mark, to be strategic every time. Put up the plans that are strategic and skillfully execute those. Pastors that are strategic, they sit down in God's presence to map out their plan and follow it patiently, but very consistently as well. Now, this is very important because many times we are strategizing, we're using our minds, we're doing things by applying our minds, sometimes even common sense that we use, but we fail to sit down, actually to listen to the God that called us. And I want to speak this with more passion to say it is very important to know that you've been called by God. The vision that you have is the vision that you've been given to you by God. Now, if it has been given to you by God, it is going to be very important to sit down and listen to the very God who gave you the vision, to the very God who gave you the calling. Because then every plan that you put up should be through the voice of the very same God, because He knows the destiny of this vision. He knows where He called you to go. He knows where He has actually set up things for you to accomplish. So the vision itself is going to be accomplished to a certain level that God has mapped it up. He has been there before. Because when He gives you a vision, it's because He knows where He wants you to be. But it's only through pastors that are able to sit down, listen to the very God who has given them the vision. Listen to His voice, pray, and be sensitive actually to His voice to guide and to lead you. The steps of a righteous man are, of course, ordered by God. So allow your steps as a pastor to be ordered by God Himself, because He's the one who has actually called you for the work at hand. And as He has called you for the work at hand, He will be able to guide you every step of the way for you to be able to walk through this vision and be able to accomplish it, because He knows the direction. He knows the destiny of this vision. So I want to emphasize the fact that being strategic is okay, but it's very important as well to sit back and listen to the very same God who gave you the vision, so that you can actually walk in the path of the God that called you. I want to end up here today. Your host, Mike Spokane. Thank you very much for listening to us and being part of this great topic. And I hope that you will continue subscribing to our YouTube channel. So please make sure that you do, and make sure that you like our Facebook page, Church Governance Solution. Like our Facebook page, Mike Spokane, and make sure that you click notification buttons as well right there. You will be notified when we've posted videos of this sort, and you will learn out of this. This was part 2, of course, of this great topic. Tomorrow we'll embark on part 3. So please join us tomorrow as we deal with part 3. May the good Lord bless you. Allow me to check out here and say cheers for now.